I refused to sell the family home because I consider it a precious legacy. But my father became so angry that he cut ties with me over this decision, leaving me feeling alone in this world. It was a cold winter evening, with rain softly tapping against the windows, while the old wooden fireplace sat in the corner of the room, radiating warmth. The air was filled with the scent of burning wood, and on the walls hung portraits of my ancestors who had built this house decades ago. To me, this home wasn't just a place to live. It was my family's history, their stories, their memories, even their secrets. My father sat across from me on the wooden chair, his expression stern as he held his coffee cup. He said in a low but sharp voice, "I've thought about it carefully. It's time to sell this house. We don't need it anymore, and the money we'd get could change our lives." For a moment, I froze, as if the words didn't immediately register in my mind. I looked around, at the wooden table where we'd shared every meal, at the embroidered curtains my mother had sewn with her own hands, at the door I used to run through as a child to greet my father when he came home from work. "How could we sell all of this?" I said, trying to steady my voice. "Father, this house isn't just walls and furniture, it's our legacy. The last thing we have left from the past." He raised his head and stared into my eyes, then said angrily, "Legacy? The real legacy is living a better life. You don't understand. Responsibility. We need the money, and you're holding things back just because of your feelings." A lump formed in my throat, but I held my ground. Maybe I am emotional, but some things can't be bought or replaced, and this house is one of them. A heavy silence fell between us, broken only by the sound of rain hitting the glass. Then he slammed his coffee cup onto the table, spilling some of it, and said with a coldness I'd never heard from him before, "If you insist on your stance, then consider yourself excluded from this family's decisions." Those words felt like a stab to my chest. I couldn't believe it had come to this. It was as if a wall had risen between us in an instant. Days passed, and I tried calling him, but to no avail. He avoided my calls and messages. Every morning, I'd wake up hoping to find a message from him, even just a small apology or a simple, "How are you?" But nothing came. Then, one Sunday morning, as I sat in the kitchen sipping my coffee, a notification popped up on my phone. It was a short message from my father. I read it over and over, making sure I wasn't imagining it. The message was short, but harsher than I had ever imagined. It read, "Do not try to contact me again. From this moment on, consider yourself no longer my son." It felt as if the ground had vanished beneath my feet. I reread the words over and over, hoping to find something different. But no, they were as clear and sharp as a blade. I sat on the chair for a few seconds, staring blankly. Memories of my childhood flashed before me. How he used to carry me on his shoulders when we went to the market. How he taught me to ride a bike. How he would laugh at my silliest antics. How had all of that turned, in an instant, into silence and estrangement? The days passed unbearably slowly. I lived alone in the house, wandering through its rooms as if visiting a museum of my own memories. Every corner whispered a story to me. Every photo on the wall reminded me of moments too beautiful to forget. But deep inside, fear began creeping in. Not just the fear of loneliness, but the fear that my father might decide to sell the house without my knowledge. He knew I didn't have enough money to legally challenge or stop him. Then one night, as I sat in the living room listening to the rain, I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it slowly, only to find a stranger standing, there, holding a thick file. He looked at me and said in a formal tone, "Good evening. Are you the son of Mr. Your father's name? I have some important documents that must be handed to you personally." I took the file with a trembling hand and closed the door. Sitting at the table, I began opening it, but the moment I saw the first page, I felt my heart drop. The first page bore a bold, unmistakable heading, property sale notice. I froze in place, my eyes locked onto the words as if trying to will them into unreality. Yes, my father had already begun the process of selling the house, without telling me, without giving me even a chance to react. I flipped through the pages frantically, each one worse than the last. Signatures, a financial appraisal of the house, photos of every corner, inside and out, as if it were a listing in a real estate magazine. Even my room, even my small study, were among the images. I felt tears welling up but wiped them away quickly. This house wasn't just walls. It was my entire life. The thought of strangers walking in, touching my memories, changing everything. It shattered me from within. At the bottom of the file, I found a notice for a court hearing. Yes, court. My father hadn't just severed our ties, he'd made it official, forcing me legally to comply with the sale. I sat in silence, hearing nothing but the pounding of my own heart. Anger, grief, and fear twisted inside me. I no longer knew if I should fight for this house, or if I'd lose it no matter what I did. But just before closing the file, I noticed something strange. On the last page, beside my father's signature, was a name I'd never seen before. A name that made me wonder, who is this? And what does he have to do with any of it? I grabbed the file again, my eyes locked onto the name scrawled on the last page. Karim Mansouri. It wasn't a name I recognized. Not from family. Not from my father's circle. The signature sat beside my father's, and beneath it, the words, potential buyer. A chill crawled through my limbs. Who was this man? How had he gotten to the point of signing papers about our home without me knowing? It felt like living in a nightmare. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. I dropped the file onto the table, suddenly recalling my father's odd behavior over the past months. Hushed phone calls taken outside, unannounced. Meetings, even the frequent visits from a stranger I'd sometimes spot through the kitchen window, talking to him by the gate. Was that man Karim? Sleep was impossible that night. I stayed in the living room listening to the clock's ticks, each minute deepening my dread. Time was on their side. Every second I hesitated was another step toward the sale's completion. By dawn, I'd made a decision. I threw on my coat and headed into the city. I needed to find this Karim Mansouri and uncover his real motives. At the commercial registry office, after hours of digging through records, I found him. Karim Mansouri, a notorious real estate developer known for buying historic homes at obscenely low prices, demolishing them and replacing them with luxury high-rises. The moment I read that, my chest tightened. This wasn't just a sale, it was an erasure. Karim didn't want our home to preserve it. He wanted to wipe its history from existence. I stormed straight to his company's headquarters, a sleek glass tower downtown. The receptionist eyed me skeptically. "Do you have an appointment?" I clenched, my jaw. "No, but tell him it's about the family house on Jasmine Street." Minutes later, the office door opened. A tall man in his 40s emerged, expensive suit, a smile like polished ice. He extended his hand. "So you're your father's name's son." "A pleasure." I didn't shake it. Instead, I stared him down. "Why do you want our house?" He sank into his chair, gesturing for me to sit. "Prime location. And my offer? One your father couldn't refuse." I stepped closer. "But I refuse, and I won't let you tear it down." A dry laugh. "You're sentimental, but this isn't a battle you can win. The decision is your father's, and he's already agreed." Just as I opened my mouth to retort, he slid a brown envelope from his desk drawer and pushed it toward me. "Though, perhaps what's inside will change your mind." I looked at the envelope. A gut feeling told me whatever's inside will change everything. I reached out slowly, took the envelope, and unfolded its contents, old photos and documents revealing the truth. My father had been drowning in debt for years, and selling the house was his only escape from prison. In that moment, My anger and grief collided with a crushing wave of shock and betrayal. This wasn't just about selling our legacy. My father was fighting for survival. I looked up at Karim, but words failed. Me. The only thought left was, the ending was already written. And so our tale ends today. But in the world of Max Fables, every story carries a lesson and leaves its mark. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our upcoming tales. Here, where stories come to life.